start off with a basic introduction of web development. Well, web development refers to creating and building and maintaining of websites. It includes aspects such as web design, web publishing, web programming, and database management. Whenever you see a website like google.com or youtube.com, you you might wonder how they actually work. Well, they work. You can use them because somebody, a programmer, created them or coded them on the other side of the company in Microsoft or Google. Now, why should one go for web development? Well, the advantage of web development is there are evergreen job openings. It's a really stable job option just because it considers websites, and as long as there's internet, there's websites, and as long as there are websites, there's web development. Then it involves your problem solving skills. It engages you to solve problems. That's basically any type of programming. What you need to do is basically search for problems and find the solutions, because or maybe you're given a certain problem and you're finding the solutions. Then 3 is for people who want to be entrepreneurs in the modern day, because when you're an entrepreneur who has very little to invest, or a general entrepreneur, so the first thing you need to advertise your brand is probably a website. And if you know how to make a website, you would actually save the cost of hiring somebody else to do so. Number 4 is you will have an early scale foundation which will help you get ahead of your classmates or people who are not doing these in your age, because I assume that you guys are from class 7 or 8 here, and this makes it like an age where people are busy out there, wasting their time and all. And here you are building your base in web development, and learning a skill that has job openings in the future and high paying salaries. So you are already ahead of a bunch of people, and if you stay ahead by learning and learning, you will end up to be more successful than the other people are. Then the number 5 is lucrative packages. This is more exclusive to people who are considering to get web development as a career option, because as a career option, web development has web developers have an annual income of like $73k per annum, and that's one of the highest paying jobs. Maybe not the highest paying job in the tech field, but it's again evergreen and stable. Then there will be, let's say, number 6 is year-end competitions. Now, I won't really say these are year-end competitions. There are a ton of competitions hosted by programming communities and schools which involve web development. One of them is coined as a term of hackathon. Hackathon is where you're given a problem and you have to come up with a website or app with a solution to that problem. And if you know web development, that really helps you. Now let's understand basic website the languages that construct the website. Well, first of all, programming language is basically a language used to communicate with the computer. When we speak to each other, we are telling people something in a language they can understand and process, and they are replying to us. Just like that, our relation between the computer and me is made possible by a language, and that's called a programming language, because I am actually instructing the computer to do something for me, and it will return me my desired output. Now, the HTML, CSS, JS, these are the basic languages that people actually need to make mid-range website, and that's the base components of every website. Now let's understand this with an analogy of a human body. Well, in a human body, there's a skeleton which gives the body a shape, and without shape the body would be uh, it would be as good as dead, because it would be lying as a mass out there. So HTML is basically the structure of the website, on in which order are the web components of a website structured. Title goes first, and then comes the components, then comes the sidebar, etc., etc. So that's how you define them, and the definition is called HTML. And CSS is like your skin of the body, or the features of the body that make you physically attractive, or give you the physical look, because CSS literally is the scripting language which is basically adding more styling to your website, more design to your website, and helping your website look better in a lot of ways. Then there's JavaScript. The JavaScript can be compared to the organs of a human body, because the JavaScript code that we insert in a website decides how the website functions and processes information. For example, when you are filling up a form on the internet, well, it's taking some data from you and processing it, the response, and then returning some reply if it has to. And that's what JavaScript handles. HTML, CSS doesn't play a part except being the faces of the input, but we'll come to that later. Now let's understand how the web actually works. Now, I won't suggest you to go to this diagram right now, because it might be confusing to you. Let me explain first, and then you can just jot it down. Now the thing is, when we are going to a restaurant, when we have to order something, we call the waiter and say, "Acha, give me some pizza." Now what we actually did was, we made a request to the waiter that they should give us a pizza. Now the waiter isn't gonna make the food for us, right? The chef has to. The waiter then goes to the chef, and then what he does is, he goes to the chef and says, one of our customers said that they needed this pizza, and the chef says, okay, I'll make the pizza and give it to you, and you will pass on to the customer. Now this waiter is processing requests and responses. Response was the pizza delivered by the chef to the customer, and the customer is like the client, or the face through which we are making requests and getting responses. It's usually like our computers or our web browsers. In a web browser, suppose we are filling out a form, and when we are giving the required details in a form, then we are actually utilizing our client to make a request to the server to return something, a processed form. Now a server is basically a location where the website is actually stored, and the place where the website is actually stored, most of the times there's a database, or at least there's code which is processing the requests and giving you a desired result. When we work more with this, I think you will get a clearer explanation on what this is, but this was the basic explanation of how the web works. We'll proceed to get our development environment ready. Development environment is basically the set of tools and software you will use to start off our web development journey. And first of all, I need to introduce you to what is an IDE, or a text editor. Now the thing is, when we are writing code in schools, they use Notepad for HTML and stuff, but Notepad in itself is a very raw, vanilla, and kind of a useless editor, because it has very less features that could help a beginner to learn programming well and good. Now the thing is, IDEs or text editors add some more features, and they help make your development journey easier. And the text editor of my choice is Visual Studio Code, and that's what we are going to use throughout the year in this course. Now I'm going to introduce. Now installing Visual Studio Code should be very simple if you are new to computers and all. Even then you could install Visual Studio Code. You just need to type it in Google, and then you visit the Visual Studio Code website, and here you will get, well, Visual Studio Code is something that runs on Windows, Linux and Mac, and that eradicates the problem of people not having the computer supporting Visual Studio Code. I use Linux machine, and I know that you guys, most of you run Windows or Mac, so I'd like to continue the installation walkthrough through my friend.
So to install VS Code, we first search for Visual Studio Code. You can use any browser you want. I'm using Google Chrome. Then we open the website. We download the latest version. Just wait a second for this to download. This will depend on your internet connection. Just wait a few minutes. Yeah, it's done. Now we run the executable file. You accept, click on I accept the agreement. Then we click on next. Now check these check boxes. Make sure you check this option, add to path. This is very important. If you don't do this, this is not going to work. Now after that, click on next. Then we click on install and just wait. And we launch Visual Studio Code. Well, I already had Visual Studio Code installed, so this is gonna already launch my used recent files. But there you go. Visual Studio Code is now installed. Enjoy.
Now this is somewhat what your VS Code should look like when you launch it the first time. And now to continue with this, I'm gonna just show you the workthrough where I open a folder. Suppose I make a folder in my desktop and I call it web dev, and then I open that folder here. And what basically happens is it opens the folder for us, and we can work with the files in this folder. This is a message that show. If it doesn't show to you, then it's fine. Now let's make an HTML file, say hello.html and hello.css, hello.js. In hello.html you can just type out an exclamation mark and it will fill up a basic template. You don't need to understand what these are because we'll cover it in our next topic, but for now this is the basic our website, the basic structure of our website. Suppose we change the title to something like hello world, and we randomly write hello world here. Now how do you plan on seeing what this website actually displays? Well, for that, VS Code has an extension called the live server, which I need all of you to install. Live server. Live server, it's by Ritvik Day, and you need to install this. After installing a live server, the thing that you will see after right clicking this page is open with live server options. You can also use Alt plus L, Alt plus O, and when you try to open it through live server, you will see that in our browser it opens a website. Now let's understand the structure of the website. Well, we will understand what is this is the basic structure of a website where the doc type HTML, it is telling you that the document is an HTML file, and then there's this HTML tag which sets the default language for any if some web processor needs it later on. Then comes the head tag file, which consists of information about the document as a whole or the HTML content as a whole. And one the things the tags that are there in the head file define or tell you more about the document itself. Then comes the body that explains what is contained inside the document, the components basically. And then comes the closing HTML tag. Now this is one thing, when you're opening a tag like this, suppose you open a tag like this, so generally what you will have to do is to close that tag, you need one slash, and then you get that tag name to close that slash down. But some of the tags, like suppose button, no, not button, suppose when it comes to the BR tag, what you can do is to close this BR tag on the line itself, you could just put a slash here, that will close the BR tag. Instead, as BR tag is a tag that does not hold any content between it, so what you could rather do is just leave it with BR, because that wouldn't make a separate container of its own. But that's a different topic. We'll understand what's there in this head section under the head tag. There are meta tags. Meta tags are stating the information that a browser processes usually to improve the SEO or the search engine optimization of your website, and suppose how the website appears on the internet. For example, if I'm searching something like Linux, or let's search just Microsoft. We search Microsoft. Now here comes the Microsoft website, and here comes the logo. Now with the logo there are certain descriptions given, and these are the title basically, that's a different thing, but these are the descriptions given, then how your website appears, on which rank it appears when you are searching, etc, etc. That is defined by the meta tags. So I'm gonna go to this website, suppose Wikipedia. One second. Now if we inspect into the code of this website, which you can do by right clicking the website and going to inspect, or Control plus Shift plus I in most editors. Now if I'm going to the source code of this website, what I can see is when we start the website, when I go to the head section of the website, there are a lot of meta tags, and these meta tags are basically telling much more about the website. Like there's the fav icon is the icon that appears so when the web browser, when you search the website, and at the top of the tab, then there's an icon search, then there should be another one that's called, there are certain contents, but I'm not gonna explain all of these. I'll go to my own VS Code, and what I will do is I'll explain all of these, because time by time we'll come across, when we make projects, we will come across many meta tags like this. Now the first one is meta char set. It sets the font face, and just keep it there. And then there's this tag which says that if there's a browser called Internet Explorer in mostly old computers. Now when developers develop a website, sometimes it gets into problems when it goes to Internet Explorer, and That's why the devs of HTML community, they came up with a meta tag which could help like fix this, because such that Microsoft Edge, that's like the new Microsoft browser. Now the content, when it detects that you are an Internet Explorer, then it will show the content like it was in Microsoft Edge, so that people can have a smooth cross-platform feeling, because Internet Explorer just messes up at rendering some websites. Then comes the title. The title tag is what appears at most top of the website. Like there's Microsoft Wikipedia right here, and we can see that in this section of the title too. Now we can change the title. Say we can say I do web development, and we open this with live server. Then what happens is, you can see on when it's showing the tab, it is changing to I do web development. Now we'll go through some more stuff, like there's something called description, and in description we can write this is a sample website for my web development. And what happens is, if this website comes to your search engine, then this is what will be shown in the subheadings, not here, that's like they showed here. That's basically the thing. And we can also explore some more ones. This is different. Meta. So we can say redirect to something. If we say redirect to google.com, now what happens is, we open with live server, and it redirects us to google.com. So the meta tags basically help you control the external functions and looks of the website. Then comes the link one, link tag. What a link tag does is, a link tag helps us differ at the most used common case. It helps us link a style sheet, so that we can integrate. Well, we basically write CSS in our separate file, like hello.css. Hereby we write our CSS, and then we come to our HTML. Now how do we integrate the HTML with the CSS, or the CSS into the HTML file? Well, we link the file to an external file, which is hello.css. Now there's a similar one for JavaScript, which is known as script and script src. Now when we write, we can define a script, that's our JavaScript file for the HTML, and here we can write hello.js, so that integrates our JS into our HTML file. That's basically the use of meta, title, link, and script. I'll write this down for you. This is used to add CSS file. This is used to add HTML, JS file. Now if you're wondering what these arrows are, well, they are comments, and the thing that they help to do is, they won't be processed in your website. They will do is, they are like external statements or some extra instructions in your code, which will not be processed, but will only be visible to the person who is reading the code. So if I'm giving you this file, then only you can see these comments, because I'm writing them down for you when you revisit these files. Suppose, as an example of comments, we'll show this is a comment. We write something right here. Now what happens is, when we open this thing, again we launch with live server. One second, I forgot to remove the redirect. Now if we open with live server, what happens is we can see this is a comment, but I don't want the users to see what I'm writing here. I want the users, I want only the developers who have the source code file to see what's going on here. Then I can add these arrow like structures, or in VS Code what we can do is we can on this line go control and slash. That will comment it for us. There are a lot of shortcuts in VS Code which you should explore if you play around. And now that we have commented this down, you will see that it's no more visible in our website to the user, but we can still see it as a developer in our code. Explanatory statements basically. Now let's understand what are headings and paragraphs in HTML. For that I will create a new file, suppose hide h1.html. Then we'll go exclamation mark. Now if you're wondering what this exclamation mark does, it basically stands for an emmet abbreviation. Now you might wonder what's emmet. Well, if you search emmet in Google, then it's a set of plugins for text editors that allows to code faster in HTML, HTML, XML, and etc. Now all of these stuff are generated by emmet by default because it's embedded into VS Code by default. But if you're using something like Notepad and all, then you have to write your own code. You have to write it from scratch. Suppose if I use something, Notepad for example, if I open Notepad, I open a file in Notepad, I don't get the emmet. Then if I use stuff like exclamation mark, you won't get the whole code. That's why I like VS Code, because it has a lot of plugins that helps you code faster. Because if you wanted to essentially write this all from scratch, then you are basically spending in more time for getting your base layout right there, and that is what this basically prevents. And let's make the title headings and paragraphs. Now let's open this in Live Server first before we move on. Now headings are basically bold default HTML tags that define the boldness and the size. Basically they act as headers. I'll show you. There are six types of headers, and each have their own style and sizes. There's H1, there's H2, there's H3, there's H4, there's H5, one second, H5, there's H6, and there's P, that stands for paragraph. Now I can just go Control plus Shift, and I will use my arrow key to navigate down, my down arrow key, and that will help me have a multi cursor. Now in case I wanted something, hello, this is a heading, and he'll write hello, this is a paragraph. This is our HTML page. How it appears, we can quite visibly see these are the different sizes that HTML provides you. H1 stands for the biggest one, and then comes H2, and then comes H3, and then comes H4, and like this accordingly it goes till H6, which is the smallest form of headings. And then there's a paragraph. Paragraph comes with pretty much default styling. We can get some sample text out here, alpha, beta, or actually the lower epsilon. I think we can, so we can just write lorem here and it will complete us. You don't need to consider this as a part of the tutorial, because first of all loading if something is just random text generated. Now if we move back to our browser, then you will see there's a bunch of random text. Now we'll learn two tags majorly. One is the strong tag. The strong tag helps us bold our text, while for going italic we need to use the M tag. If we bound this part of the text between the M tags, then after getting to our live server, we'll see that certain part of the text has been bolded. That's the part that's inside these strong tags, and certain part has been italicized. Now you might wonder that, no, I'm just gonna show you the problem and then the solution to it. First of all, you'll see if we write something like a paragraph where we have AI and then we write like Juka. We go to our website and we notice that even though in the code we type these in separate lines, these are still in the same lines. Why doesn't this happen? In fact, if I give too many spaces right here, it won't still appear as a gap. What do we have to do then? Hence, if we want to give a one line gap or move something to a new line, we generally use the BR tag. And the BR tag, you will be wondering why we did, where is the closing and opening tag? Well, BR tag is one of those tags which is a self-closing tag, and that's why it closes itself and doesn't need any external another whole tag to close it. And when we are adding a BR tag, you will see that the Joker word has been shifted to the next line, and the AI word is in a separate line now. Now, what if you wanted to style this a bit? I'll show you. We are gonna use the HR tag and say right here Apple. Then what happens is we get a line, but it's properly separated by a visual, an actual line, and that's done by the HR tag. These were the basic tags used in an HTML, like in an HTML document. If you really wanted to be really basic and you type out something with the basic styling, that's what these tags deal with. These were it. These are the basic text formatting tags. Now that we have covered headings and paragraphs, we'll move on to our next topic, that is links. Let's create a file called links.html. Now links.html, we are gonna first initialize the boilerplate. The boilerplate is basically the template, the embed that has been explained in one of my past videos, the last video I think. Links. Now what is the problem? Basically, when a website, you will see that there are several components. For example, if we open a website like Microsoft.com, then when we are going for Microsoft.com and we are clicking suppose we are clicking this Teams option, then we are being redirected to some other website. Or suppose if you wanted to attach a link from where a person can click and then he will be redirected to some other website or like google.com and all, then that's when we use links in our websites. Now how to add links? Well, we use our anchor tag. The anchor tag helps us to add links. Now suppose we write here in the content, go to Google, and here's our href attribute. Now what's an attribute? An attribute is basically a set of data that a tag processes to actually function, because you'll see this href attribute is for specifying the URL or the document where we will be redirected if we click this go to Google in our website. Suppose we put here https.google.com, and then we went open this in live server. Then we'll see in our website there's uh, a purple shaded link, that's google.com, go to Google. If we click this, then we will be redirected into google.com directly. Now we could put here anything, we could put here Wikipedia, and then we can change this to Wikipedia too. Then if we again go back to our website, then what will happen is we'll see that we have this option called Wikipedia. Then we can again go to the other websites, and this is how the href tags work. Now what if you wanted to shift, not shift really, what if you wanted that when you are clicking this button, then what happens is your main website, when you are clicking this button, your main website gets closed, and in the same tab the wikipedia.com gets opened. Now the thing with the problem with this is, or not a problem, you want your requirement to be that you want to open your link in the next tab or a new tab. So what you want is basically when we are clicking this button, Wikipedia gets opened in a separate tab like this. This is what you want. What will you do for that? We'll use another attribute, that is the target attribute. In the target attribute, we'll put a value that is blank or underscore blank. And when we are using underscore blank, if I'm clicking the button now or the link now, then we are being redirected to Wikipedia, but you will see both are in separate tabs. So we have our website and Wikipedia is being opened on another side of the on another tab. Now that's basically, and I'll comment it because you're gonna get this file after this session, and it will help you for further reference. And talking about reference, we can explore, because HTML is something which you don't really need to remember a hundred tags and all. What you can simply do is you can go to Google and say a tag, or search a tag target attribute, the tag name and the attribute name. You will see there are websites like W3 Schools which will give you the whole definition and will help you throughout your usage of the tag. Like there's given a definition where the target attribute specifies where to open the link document. Then there's browser supports. Then there is syntax. Then there are the attribute values. Now this is what you would refer to understand that what else could you use. If you didn't use blank, then what else could you use? And this is what you can use, and this is what happens if you use them, the description. So there's a simple answer to everything in programming, and that's Google or searching up stuff in the internet. Now that's links for you. And coming to our last part, well, what we'll do is we'll see how to open internal websites. Internal websites means another HTML page in the same directory of your project. Now we'll again initialize an anchor tag, and in the href what we will do is period slash, then we'll get a list of files. These are basically the files we have here. Now if we want to take the user to one of those files, we will simply enter the file here. Suppose I want to take the user to h1.html where we did our headings and paragraphs material. Now if we are gonna do that, and suppose in the content we write go to h1.html, We come back to our website and then we go. If we click this, then we are redirected to our previous material, and that's the another HTML file. Now this helps when you are suppose when you are seeing a website, you have two sections. You have an about section, you have a contact us section. Now they are in different HTML pages. Now how would you navigate between them? Well, this is your answer. And for some extra cleanliness, what I will do is I will add BR tags, because it's just idea and cleaner on eyes. These were links in HTML. We'll move on to our next topic, which is images. We'll create a new file, images.html, initialize the boilerplate, change the title. Then this is all about how to add images to your website. Now to add images, we are using the img tag. Img tag has two attributes by default. One is src or source attribute. Basically is where you link your image, or suppose anything, an online link to an image. For example, if we search panda, now we put a random panda image, we go to it and copy image link. That's an option that comes when you right click into the image. This is the link. And now if we move to our website, oh, we haven't opened this website in live server yet. Yeah, so this is our website and here's our image. Now if you think this image is too big, you can resize it through some extra tags. That's width, the width we can set 200. It's all in pixels. And we'll set the height as suppose 100. Now let's see what is the output. Well, we can see that our image has been resized. Now we can even make it larger. Suppose I add 10 to each of these, then what happens is it becomes really large. So you can resize according to pixels. And but I don't prefer, or it is not preferable to use these tags, because when we are learning CSS, then the width of the image and the resizing is what we'll be doing through CSS. Now what's alt? The alt tag basically contains text which is shown if your image fails to process. Suppose you give an incorrect link, like I remove some part of the link, so now it is no more correct, it is incorrect. And alt we write error loading image. Now if we go to our website, we'll see that we have the alt text because were not able to process, they were not able to process the image. Now what if you wanted to give a local image? For a local image, we are gonna again /, and then choose our image from our directory. These are all the files that are in our directory or our folder. I had this image in my computer and I can now display it through my this thing, what do you call it, yeah, through my website. And we can again resize it as usual. Now another thing that I would like to show you is a website called Unsplash. Now suppose in the src, if we write https, this is basically, I think you have learned in school, it's the protocol. Now we'll type out the link source.unsplash.com/random/ we'll give a resolution here. We can give 1920 into, this is basically the common resolution for basically the 2K resolution. Then after another slash we can put a question mark and give a search query. Search query, suppose we want nature related images, we will type nature or trees. You can give multiple such queries like this, and when you are doing this you will see that we will get random images every time new images that will be related to trees and nature basically. So Unsplash is not actually something that's towards HTML, but it's a tool that is pretty useful for anybody, or for any designer who is or even graphic designers who are wanting beautiful stock images, because all of these are free to use. And sometimes in websites I'm like giving Unsplash images just so that they are generating random images every time, so it gives another level of feel. This was a nice website. You can directly link, so that's how you directly link websites. Then you are basically going through, after directly linking websites, what you are going through is how to link an image in your website from a local file, and then comes Unsplash. And that was it for the video about images. We are gonna move to our next topic, that is lists. Let's create a new file as usual. List.html. Now, how do we create a list? Well, to create a list, what we'll do is we'll go with the UL tag. UL tag stands for unordered list. I'm gonna write down here as a comment, unordered lists. Now inside the UL tag, what we'll write is we are initializing an unordered list. An unordered list is basically a list which is represented by bullet systems, bullets. Suppose we write this is an unordered list, then now if we open this website, then what happens is, so this is an unordered list, and we could actually write here, suppose then we go to ordered list, that is an OL tag. Now in the OL tag we'll again initialize a similar list, or I'm just copy pasting here, and we can just change all of these to order. Now what will happen here is, if we go to our website, you will see this is an unordered list, this is an ordered list. You can see the difference, because in an ordered list there is a numerical system 1 2 3, and on an unordered list there's all of these stuff, bullets. Now there's another attribute to both of these, type. Now the type attribute has it has, one second, type for unordered list has its values disk, circle, square. Now if we give type as disk, then we'll get these kind of bullets. If we are gonna change it to square, then we'll have square bullets, and if we are gonna change it to circle, then we have circular bullets. It's all about how your bullets look. Now if we go for type in ordered lists, then you will see we have 5 options. One is, if we put 1, then it will go like 1 2 3. If you put capital A, then the indexing would go like capital A, capital B, capital C. If we put small a, then it will be capital A, small a, small b, small c. If we go for I, Then I and small I, those are Roman numerals. Suppose we give I, you will see we'll have Roman numerals here. If we give A, we'll have ABC. If we give capital A, we'll have ABC in capital. These were lists. Now you could create lists inside a list. Suppose we put a list, no, we put a UL, actually no, I will be like list, this is a sub list. Then what I will do is UL list sub list 1. That will give me another a list that will be followed from an item from a list. So suppose we will, when we are working with projects, which we will do it soon, then you will see the correct the real world application of these. I will, and these were lists for us. There's nothing more to actually tell you about lists here. Again, it all depends on how much you explore at the end of the day, because if I didn't know what types are, I'm gonna do the lists in HTML. I'm gonna go to a website, suppose HTML list website. It will show me what all tags I can use. There are li tags, then you know, all of these ul, ol. Now suppose I'm gonna get research more about the ol tag. When I'm going to the ol tag, then it shows me the attributes. There are the type attribute and what can we use here, etc, etc. And we can even define start. That's another thing. Suppose we're gonna say start 2 or 3, no, 2. Let's keep it 2. We go to our lists. You will see it will start from the second index, that's B, C, D. It won't consider A as a part. That were lists for you. Now we are going to move towards tables. Now before understanding how to integrate tables in our website, what we need to understand is how a table is formed, or what is the format of a table. Well, when there's a table like this, now this is what is a basic format of a table. In a table, on an HTML table, there's a group of heads, and in the group of heads there are listed a number of heads. Now the heads are basically the headers. Like when we make a table in suppose MS Word or MS Excel, then we are putting a name, a header called a name, then there's a head called roll number, then there's a head called phone number, and whatever data you are using. So that is the group of heads. And then comes the body, where the body consists of multiple rows, and in each of those rows there are a set of, like there's body 1, there's body 2, and etc, etc, etc. Now let's apply this. We are gonna create a div called table. This is not something that you need to create a table, but I prefer keeping the table as a whole, because what we'll basically do is we will initialize a tag called thead that will consist of all the heads. Then in thead we'll define tr. Tr basically means table row. I'm gonna comment that tr is table row. In the tr I'm gonna write th means it basically means one of those heads. So what would be the name of the head? Suppose we are gonna write something, we are gonna record some data of some students and their roll numbers. We can write student name, and then another head we'll write class, another th we'll write roll number. Then what we'll do is we'll go to T body. That's another tag, and that would be after defining the T head. Then we will make another row in the body, and we'll write TD. TD means table data. This means TH means table head, and TD stands for table data. Now here we can write, suppose, RDL, and class we can write 11, roll number we can write 1, and we can do the same for multiple rows. That would be here Jessica, and there can be Yuvraj. We can give many classes, we can give our desired classes and roll numbers. I created a table like this. I'll format the document so that it looks a bit ordered. Yeah, after formatting the document it looks somewhat like this. Now if we open this in the live server, what are we gonna see? One second, did we do something wrong? Why isn't it coming? Now does it work? It is supposed to work. One second. Yeah, so I forgot the main block. The main block is table. Inside this table tag we have to keep the T body and the T head. After doing this, if we open this in the live server, this is supposed to, yeah, it's set in a table. This table really looks ugly for now, but again, that's the job of CSS to design this and all. But yeah, this is how our table works. Now if you are too confused with this, I'm gonna tell you from the beginning in a summary. You have to just remember this. You have to define table, then comes the table head, then comes the table body. Now table head, and the table head consists of the column headers or the column names, and the T body consists of the data, and the data is defined row wise by using the TR tag. So within the TR tags you are specifying the rows, and inside them you are specifying the table headers and the table data. And that's pretty much it about the tables. There's nothing else. It's pretty simple. We'll proceed by making forms in HTML. To make forms, first we initialize with the form tag. Now here comes our first attribute, that's action. Now what happens in action is if you give a file to an action, which would basically be a file that connects it to the server, then the form will be submitted to the file that is given to the action. Now what do I mean by that? Well, a form is basically a method of taking user input. The user input usually goes to a server for getting processed, and this is where action comes into play, because when you are filling up a form and then submitting it, then what action states is where should I carry all the details to, and the use of and the effect of action we'll see once we suppose write something here, a file called backend.php. Now this file doesn't exist in our directory, so we will get an error, and we need not care about that, because that's pretty much not because we are not dealing with backend just right now, but we are just gonna see the effect of the name attribute, and that's gonna come later. Let's proceed with, suppose we are making a form where I'm telling a person to submit to give some details. So first we'll come across the div tag. Now the div tag is basically a block tag or basically it's like a container. So you can, or a section of an HTML website, and when you are defining a certain number of elements, suppose if I'm giving a div or division tag, and I'm giving an anchor tag, suppose here, then I'm giving a lace tag, then I'm giving one then I'm giving a tag, suppose a paragraph tag, then an h1 tag. Now what happens is, if I am directly applying HTML CSS to these divs, then what will happen is they will get automatically applied to all of the subdivisions. So a div is basically a division in a website, because a website is basically suppose this is our website, suppose youtube.com, there's the video out here, and there's a search bar, there are some options out there, there's a logo, then on the right side there are several recommendations. Now all of these are contained inside divisions or divs. That was divs. And why we are using divs here? Because we want to separately have all the form inputs. Now we will go for the label tag. What's label tag? First of all, we will write name here and write here name. Then comes our input tag. Type text name or my name, and ID is name. Now I'm going to show you what happens and then explain why it happens. This is our, one second, I think we are gonna open with this. Yeah. So what basically happens here is, when we are defining something as a label, the label basically means this part of the text. This is the text. What should we enter? Now the for attribute tells what does this label stand for. This label stands for this input, which is name. Now how does it recognize the input? For what input does it stand for? By the ID. We are defining our input to have a specific ID by which it can be accessed by other tags. Now that is why when we are defining the label tag, when we are defining the value of the for attribute, in the for we write basically the ID of the input that it refers to. For some more examples, I'm gonna so there's name, then let's say role. One is applying for a job, he wants to apply for a certain role. Here I can just change my name to my role, ID to role, and this to role. Now what you will see here is, first of all, if I'm clicking name, then it is selecting this specific input box. What if I said in this in the for attribute of role, if I clicked role, then also you would see that this specific input bar gets selected. Now but if I change it to role, then what gets selected is our specific input bar that we want to actually refer to. So it's basically what you want the person to enter, that's clearly written, plus where he will enter. So that's label and input. Then comes, suppose, gender. Enter your gender. Here what we will do is, we'll be going what we would do here is we would add some check boxes. Now in those check boxes, let's cancel the for from here, and in those check boxes what we'll do is for mail. Here comes for mail, and here comes input. Input will be checkbox. Name mail, ID mail. Now we'll do the same for female. We have done this. Yeah, this is what we did. Now you will see that we have two options here. We have male or we have female, or actually in the name, because name, I'm going to explain what name is. Name is basically what the value will the value you set in name is the identifier that goes along with the form to the action. To understand this better, I'll just first of all I'll conclude the form for now. No, I won't. I would like to add an input. It would be, you can because if you are using VS Code, you will see how many types of input are there, and they are like a huge amount of inputs. Because not really inputs, because there are a huge amount of types. There's a separate type for emails, for passwords, so you can pretty much have anything. Then I have this submit button, and I would like to have another one which would be a reset button, and for that the value would be reset. Now let's go to our main form. Actually, I would like these to be in the same division, so they are side by side each other. Suppose we enter a name J, and suppose I enter my gender male and role as head designer, and we go submit. Now you will see that we get an error because our file doesn't exist, so it has nothing to process. But here comes the role of the name tag, because what happens then is if we see what response it actually returns, we can see that it has processed our data as my name has been J, my role has been taken as head designer, and my gender has been taken as on. Well, I think then we can just say male and female out here, and if we resubmit the form, then you will see, one second, if we resubmit the form, then you will see that male is on, and when and through the backend we can detect that if male is on, then the person is male or he is not a male. Now that's basically the basically out of the form, and forms are really simple. I need you to explore around with the other types. You will see if I write forms in HTML, then what will happen here is, if I open this website, there are some examples of forms, or the examples of inputs. Suppose we wanna take this example and I wanna look at it. Here's our form. Here's the second form, first name, last name. Again, it's on the label system. It has been defining a for tag, and then it uses br tags too. It doesn't use divisions basically, but that's completely fine unless you really want to add JS, CSS, JS. BR I would recommend you should use while you're formatting text. But yeah, those were forms. We'll come across forms more when we are learning both front end and back end integration of forms etc., etc. And even, of course, while making projects. That will be after we learn the basics of CSS, we'll come across a project. So these, I'm gonna be honest here. So the thing is, HTML, CSS are mostly used for the front end, and to really understand those and apply those, you need to make a project, and that's everything programming. Because in programming, without projects, you won't understand many things, because what happens is people start watching so many tutorials together, then what happens, they are just watching tutorials but they are not applying any of the knowledge that they are actually receiving. And watching tutorials, reading definitions doesn't work half of the time. You have to go hands on with the projects. That's why you will see that in some of my videos I go very abstract sometimes, because what I want you to gain is, you have a rough idea of the topic, not a pinpoint idea, because pinpoint idea you won't simply develop until you are making a project, and we'll come to making projects. So that's how you should actually learn to code, instead of attending 100 of tuitions about coding and using 100 of tutorials online or even outside, without wasting too much of your time in tutorials and to watch tutorials to get a rough idea about topics. Just go hands on with the project and you will gradually learn everything. Now we'll cover a small topic, which is block and inline elements. Now these are basically two types of elements in HTML, and block elements are basically elements that start from a new line, and the browser automatically adds some space when the elements are kept after each other. Suppose when we are putting two divisions, say hello, then what happens basically is, if I'm opening this in the live server, what happens basically is, it moves to the next line directly, instead of getting written side by side. Same happens when we are writing, giving the p tag, hello world, p, hi. You'll see there's a considerable gap given between the two elements. These are called the block elements. Meanwhile, if we are writing something in strong, hello world, I am Pluto, then you will see that when we are defining this tag, the element is not actually acting in a new line, but it is being implemented in the same line as the previous text. These were basically block and inline elements. It's a pretty small topic, but keep in mind, because these terms may come in the future. Now we are gonna have a brief introduction of classes and IDs. When we are making a div, suppose we write here hello world. Now this specific component of a website, this can have a class, an ID and a class. And what is an ID? Suppose we give the ID hello text and class hello. Now what happens is, why an ID is basically an identifier, and when an ID is called, then the whole element that is being referred by the ID or being identified by the ID is called. Now where do we call it? When we are writing JavaScript, that is the time when we are actually calling these IDs majorly. Or we can also do it in CSS, but CSS generally what we do is we define classes. So that's the use of a class. Because, and another thing, suppose we make two such divisions, But the thing is, when when I am defining this division and I'm giving it an ID, I cannot use that ID for anybody else, because there cannot be two elements with same ID, or you will mess up the whole code. So here I have to give something, some other ID. Suppose helot. I don't even know what that is, but helot. And a division can have multiple classes. That can be hello, Jim, J, etc., etc. How many classes I want. So and those classes will be used in CSS for styling. Again, IDs and classes, it's good for you to know, because we'll further use them in the HTML, CSS, in the CSS and JavaScript tutorials. So it's always better to know all of these. Now we'll move on to entities. Entities in HTML are basically reserved characters, or reserved characters which you might want to use in your HTML document, but you can't. Now, to actually use them in the document, you need to add some special entities or special set of characters which will basically define the certain character. For example, if I define a division and then I put hello world in it. By the way, this is a good thing in VS Code. Div dot something, suppose div dot name, will automatically give me a division that is set as the class. The same happens when I am giving hashtag and name, but it will give me a division with the ID already set as name. So that's a quick way, basically of a functionality given by Emmet to you. Now if we are writing hello world and giving a space and write Jim, and then we are opening it in live server, did it open? It should, yeah. So you will see that what basically happened is there's the space didn't come when we wanted it to come. So how do we make it get the space without using the BR tag? We'll open the website W3 Schools. Here there are listed all the HTML character, I mean some of them, there are a ton of them, and you can always refer to these HTML character entities. What happens here is basically these are the entities. So if I'm gonna put it here, what happens is there's a space, and we didn't give the space, by the way. If I remove this somehow, then what happens is the space goes. If I uncomment it again, the space comes. Then I think there's one for the new line. We'll just search it up. New line entity. Is there an entity for new line? I don't think so. Acha. So new line, I think we have to use the BR tag only. But let's go to the other entity. Suppose we want the less than symbol. Then what we can do is we can copy this and say I less than me. That doesn't make sense, but for the sake of writing. So we have these characters here. Then for ampersand, again we have to give this certain entity names. These were basically entities. Whenever you're writing something or a document and you want to insert the following characters, then all you need to do is you need to insert their entities and they will be in your main website. That was basically entities.